Hey, so I am here with Vicky, and we have been working together for almost a year now. We started just before 2020 began, and we worked together through the pandemic, through all the craziness that's happened, and what a roller coaster it's been. But I wanted you guys to hear a little bit about how far Vicky has come. So let's get to know her. So, Vicky, tell us about your business. Like, where are you located? How many locations? How many employees do you have? Give us a little bit of that background info.
Awesome. So I am from BC. Me and my business partner, we have five different locations, and so we own a Booster Juice. We have three pita pits, and we also have a company that we created from scratch called Good Bull. Um, Most of our locations are inland, not more of the outskirts. So but I do when I do travel to every single store, I'm kind of going in like a big circle. So with that being said, we have over 55 employees that I constantly talk to, and I do want to be involved in their daily lives. But yeah, it's been a roller coaster. When I started with Andrew here, I actually was thinking about changing careers, and this is with five stores, right? Like a lot of my friends say, hey, if I had five locations, like I would obviously keep going, right? And at the very beginning of working with Andrew, I honestly felt defeated, and I just couldn't see the light through the tunnel. So yeah.
Okay. That absolutely sucks. But you know what? And so just thinking about this, imagine you were going into COVID with that mindset still in place. What do you think would have happened?
I think I would be doing something else, to be honest. um, I before I started working with Andrew or working with you, I really thought like, okay, like, is this right for me? Is this what I want? Am I happy? And when I asked myself if I was happy, I was not happy,
Yeah.
and it definitely affected my obviously personal life and not just work life. So all around, just didn't really have any motivation at that point.
Yeah.
So
So
um,
tell me more about some of the struggles that you were facing. Like what was it that, you were struggling with that kind of brought you to that point?
yeah, so it probably lasted, like, say, 3 years ago when it started. I just felt like I was just going in this loop that never ended, and I would fix those little problems, and then again, you're back in that same loop, going back and forth, literally running around with my head cut off,
Yeah.
and I just didn't feel like I was progressing, but I was working hard. Like, I put in, like, 80 hours a week, right? And I
Yeah.
was like, I don't get it. Why isn't me working this hard not getting any results?
Yeah.
So
So literally you're just like doing everything you possibly can and it's just not working. It's like you're putting the pedal to the floor, like revving up the gas, but it's like you're still stuck in first gear and you just can't
yeah,
get going, right?
I get out of that first gear, yeah. And it was tough. And just looking back, and I'm like, man, like, that was me a year ago, thinking to leave my career that I've worked so hard my whole life for. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's not easy to leave either. When you're a partner, when you're an owner in a business, like it's not an easy shift to make, but to be to that point, that's so tough. So how much time would you spend just like driving around doing, site checks and just, handling all these other problems that would come up? Like how much time each day would that take you?
It was probably like a 3.5 drive, going to each location every single day. And if I like, there were some days where I would have to go to one location twice, right?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't working smart, and I was kind of all over the place, and I would forget to do something and I'd be like, oh, I got to go back. So it's just like such a waste of time. And had I actually had been more organized that I am now, I barely drive now. Like,
Yeah.
I go to one location a day, and that's nothing, right? So it's definitely a huge shift change.
Yeah. Well, so think about it this way: 3.5 hours a day. what could you do in 3.5 hours a day, right? That would radically change anyone's trajectory of their career and in their business. Like, just imagine the things you could accomplish if you spent 3.5 hours less in your car every day. Like, that alone is enough to change your business drastically, right? Like, just that one thing. So what are some other tangible results that you've seen because of the work we've done?
Now I see that the vibe, and I'm hearing voices that are telling me these feedbacks, and I could actually do something about it now, right? And since then, I probably had about four one-on-ones, like with all the staff, like sitting down with each person 4 times, and we're on another level now. Like, it's they're able to talk to me. Before it was like, yeah, everything's good, but then now it's like, hey Vicky, like this happened, and they're telling me like their wins and their struggles, like, and I love it. Like, I want to hear those things, and if I didn't hear those things, then it would just be like, yeah, I'm good, and that was it. That's what your business would be, right? And
Yeah.
that's not how it would be. Like that's not how it is now, right? So I really love the vibe with me working smarter, and the staff are super happy. They're uh, like, even the schedules fall in line now. Like, when I ask someone if they can cover, right away they can. But before, it was so hard to find people to cover shifts, or even people to work in general, right? Like, I was covering shifts myself,
Yeah.
right? And that was another thing that took away from what I needed to do. So
Yeah.
now I got more time. Sales are actually up, and we are in COVID, so sales are up even though we're in COVID, and that just shows like how much work and working smarter does, right? So
Yeah.
I'm working
So
less, but getting more out of it.
yeah, so working less, getting more, tagline right there. That's awesome. But to pull this back a little bit, so you're talking about a relationship with your team. Some of the things that come out of that, do you find that they're happier at work, they're staying longer, maybe there's less turnover, they're more effective at work? Do you find those things are happening?
Yeah. Definitely looking back at the full year from September to September, there wasn't much turnover, right? Like, we did have some at the beginning of right before Christmas, but we already knew that was going to happen. Um, and then since then, I've actually only hired maybe 1 or 2 people. And again, we have 55, 57 employees right now. So
Okay.
that's a pretty good turnover for me.
Yeah, because most people in this industry, in the restaurant business, they're turning over, like, the average length an employee stays is 6 months. If they get to a year, that's huge. And that's just the average turnover in our industry. But to hear that all of a sudden, if you don't have to hire people and train them all the time, that's so much less work you have to put in. Their employees are better at their job. And, you can just tell if they're already connecting with you and talking to you more. They're happier at what they do. They stay longer, they're more connected, and they care more. And I think one of the big things you said there was that you used to have trouble finding people to fill shifts, and now people are actually able to cover. They're willing to come in, and they care about what they're doing, and so they're able to have each other's backs when it's needed. And I remember that even being an issue for me when I would have to go in and fill shifts because we just had nobody else.
Mhm.
And it was so stressful, so stressful.
One of the biggest things, so I don't like to bother people. I like to do things all on my own. And for some reason, I think I could do everything on my own. But when it comes to that, again, I'll probably put in like all the work that I can, but only get 30% of the results,
Hmm.
because I'm trying to do 10 things at once
Yep.
at that point, right? So now I've looked at my team, utilized them, delegated all the tasks out that I need to, and it's working fine. Like, they're doing their jobs. I'm holding them accountable, and by doing that, things are running very smoothly.
So let me stop you there for a second. So what you're saying is that you're not doing everything yourself and things are still getting done.
Exactly.
All
So
right.
working smarter, not harder.
Absolutely. And you know what? For a lot of people listening to this, they're like, I do everything. And whenever I try and get someone else to do something, it never gets done. And they just, especially even for you coming in, or for myself when I started this whole process, I had no idea that things could actually happen if I didn't do it myself. I distrusted people. I didn't believe in people, none of that. And then I figured out what I was missing. And now all of a sudden things get done, even though I'm not there. In fact, they're actually getting done better than when I was there because we have the
Yeah.
right people in the right places.
A year ago, they were just coming in, making pitas and leaving. Like
Mm,
that was their job. That
fair
was
enough.
is what they saw, right? So now that they see that I care more, they see that I'm giving them a little more power here and there and making them accountable. Now they're like, oh shit, like this is why I love the job, and they're actually in it too,
Yeah.
right? So again, it starts with me and it sets that vibe. This is a story from literally a year ago. I think I had two video calls with Andrew, and I was like, "Hey, Andrew, like I just got called in. Our fridge broke down, and I'm going to UBC right now." And I was like, "What am I doing?" Like, and Andrew's like, "What are you doing?" Right? Like, "Can you go and fix the fridge?" And I was like, "No, I'll probably just go there and look at it, but that's all I can do." But realistically, there's smarter ways to handle certain situations like that, right? Instead of me driving an hour out to the store, looking at what's broken and I can't do anything, and then having to drive back home another hour, that's 2.5 hours of my life for no reason, right? And that's what I was doing. I was just going around seeing if I could fix it myself,
Yeah.
right? So just taking a second to just think about the situation, see what's the best way to counter it, and yeah.
Yeah, because when you told me this story, I think you were actually driving. You were like 10
I was
minutes into your drive, you pulled over. But
yeah, it was
that's
yeah, it was
good.
and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna call Andrew because I have no idea what I should do right now. And that's how lost I was a year ago. Right? I
Yeah.
didn't know what to do. And I had to call Andrew to be like, hey, I have no clue what to do right now. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it'd be different if you were a fridge technician, but whereas you're not, and you're gonna have to call somebody anyway, why do you necessarily have to waste 2.5 hours of your time to get to the same conclusion? So, oh
exactly.
man, that's great. That's great. So what would you say to someone who's considering working with me or taking one of my programs?
For me, like at first, the fact that I was in that vulnerability stage and I was ready to give up. I'm so glad my business partner was like, "Hey, you know what? Like, just give this a few months," because I was ready to exit a year ago, and my business partner AJ was like, "You know what? Like, this is a huge decision. Like, maybe this course will can help you." And I honestly didn't really believe in it when I came in. I was just already defeated. So coming into it, actually listening and putting in the work and giving it all my all, because that was literally the last. If that didn't work, then of course I wouldn't be here, right?
Okay.
So here I am a year later, way more happier than I've been in the last 13 years. um, structuring the organization, making sure that we have people in place, and it's working, right? And working smarter rather than harder.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But here's the one last question I have for you is what's the next goal that you're working on? What's next for you? Where do you want to get to? What's coming up? And to follow up to that, do you think that that would even be possible had we not worked together?
yeah, like if it was a year ago and this program never came to my attention, I think I would be out of the game. Probably just working in an office, miserable. My goals now, like I want to build an empire. I want to keep building this empire. I want to keep growing, build more stores, keep giving opportunity to staff and young kids that don't have that work ethic yet, and something that we like I could teach them, right? And they could utilize that throughout their whole life, right? Like we're not just teaching people how to make pitas or food or whatever. It's more of like the mindset and how the vibe that we set, right? And just
Yeah.
the lifestyle we're living. So I'm all in.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And that's such a great impact that we can make on people. And I don't think we ever really realize how significant that is. But we're actually able to literally change people's lives through what we do. And sometimes we don't realize it until later, but I'm so glad that that's part of what you want to do because you do have an impact on people. And I'm so glad that I've been able to have an impact on you.
Thank you. And I like, you're like literally heaven sent, because again, my life would not be this. Like I would have never thought that I would still be here. So
Okay. My ego might have grown a little bit during this conversation. I'm gonna try and keep that in check. But Vicky, thank you so much for taking the time. And if I'm sure if people have questions, I may just send them your way. But to be honest, thank you for all the work you've done. I'm so proud of you and everything you've been able to accomplish, and I can't wait to see what's next.
awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
See ya.